Welcome to Stillness in the Storms podcast. I am your host, Steven Webb, and this is the show that gives you a different perspective on life. It helps you to get through the most difficult times. It prepares you for the worst and gives you that peace of mind and stillness when you need it most. So before I start, I want to say a big shout out and a thank you to Sandra and to Mo for treating me to a coffee this week. That really does make a difference, and it somewhat, in a weird way, goes to healing my 7-year-old self. And this 7-year-old self that's still trying to fix the whole world and reduce the whole world of suffering because he suffered. And he didn't suffer badly, but he suffered in the way that a 7-year-old does suffer, in perspective to that. So, yeah, thank you very much, Sandra and Mo. You're awesome, and if anybody else wants to treat me to a coffee or download my 5 simple practices for inner peace, or you would like to sign up to my newsletter, you can go to stephenwebb.uk and I will re-give that email address at the end of the podcast, and I will give you some more information about how you can sign up to my newsletter and how you can download my free book, 5 Simple Practices for Inner Peace. And they're not the standard kind of normal ones that you would normally go and have. It's not just meditation and mindfulness and all that. It's, they're mine, and they're the ones that have helped me. And what's today's show about? It's a new year, and I thought, what am I going to do about podcast for the new year? Then I've got some planned shows coming up, and I've started to plan things a little bit more to make things a little bit easier for me. And I've taken some nice time out over Christmas to really get myself organised a little bit. And it's been really wonderful. I had a wonderful Christmas. I've had a wonderful quiet New Year. Went down to see the fireworks and everything. And so I've got some episodes planned over the next few weeks. And if you stay tuned to the end of this episode, I will also give you the information, because I want you to influence these episodes and how I can help you. Very often I think about how I'm helped during the most difficult times, but that doesn't always go over to how you need and what advice you need and things like that. So I want you to email me and tell me what topics you would like me to cover. So that would really help me. It would help you, and it would help everybody else, because you're not the only one that needs that topic covered. Don't think you're the only one in the world that has that issue. Very often we think we might be alone, and am I the only one that suffers from this? No, absolutely not. And in my experience, everybody that's ever come forward with an idea, loads of people has put up their hands and goes, yes, that's me too. So you'll be really helping other people. So at the end of the show, I will tell you exactly how you can get a hold of me for that. So let's get on with today's show. So today's show really is 3 things that I've learned over the last year that I'm really putting into practice and have really made a difference. 3 things that I've really learned over this year. I don't want to go into too much detail for the moment. And then what's happening with the podcast, or what's happening over the next few months. And then most importantly, again, like I say, how you can decide the topics for this podcast. So let's get on with today's show. So I always say, like as if I've got some big musical interlude or something like that. I really haven't. But anyway, right. 3 main things, or stuff that's really made a difference to my life in the last 12 months. And stuff that I'm really now putting into practice. And the one thing that has really resonated with me at the moment is there's a huge difference between knowing and doing. And I'll let that sink in for a moment, knowing and doing. And I read a quote years and years ago that said, the person that can read and doesn't read has no advantage over the person that cannot read. And that just sunk in, and it really hit me when I read that. But now I'm starting to really realize it. I'm 50 years old now, and there's so many ways that I know I should be living my life. There's so many things I know that would help me, and there's so many things I can do that I know would help others and do different things. But do I actually do them? No. And am I going to suddenly overnight just suddenly change everything and put into practice every book I know of it. No. But I'm going to, over the last 2 weeks, I've really started putting into practice some of the things that, this is why I've taken really time out. This is why I've been quite quiet on Twitter and Facebook, because I've really started to really look at where I know different, and I have the knowledge of knowing different. I'm not actually putting it into practice. I meditate. I don't meditate as much as I probably should. And I know we're our worst critics. I'm not meditating in the morning as much as I should. I sit up and I do a couple of minutes. I need to do a little bit more. But I am taking time out a lot during the day. And I've always struggled with meditation in the afternoon, so I'm not about to promise and do that. And over the last few years, I've always promised I'm going to do all these things. And I tend to let myself down and let people down, so I'm not going to do that. So what I've really learned over the last year is really, knowing something and actually doing something with it is a real big difference. And there's no point in knowing if you're not going to do anything with it. So actively choose, okay, this is something I've learned. It's fine to know it, but I'm not going to do anything with it. And make that choice as an awareness choice. So I either just do nothing with it and be okay with that, but don't beat yourself up. Or choose to do something with it. Give it a try for a while, things like that. So that's one of the things I've really learned, and I'm really putting into practice now. And the other thing is, everybody is winging it. This is so important for me. And anybody that suffers from imposter syndrome, which is probably everybody actually, I don't know anybody when you talk to them, either they don't know what it is, and I didn't know what it was until recent years, or they suffer from it, and like I said, they don't know what it is or not aware of it, or they are aware of it and they do suffer. Otherwise, you're so overconfident that you think you've got all the answers, you think you've got everything and all that, and that's when the is it the Dunning-Kruger effect or something like that comes in, when you're overconfident and you've got this illusion of knowledge that you've got everything and you know everything. And yeah, we all know these people that speak really, really confidently, and there's no hint of kind of, that wavering in their voice or anything like that. But, you just know, well, they got that wrong and they got that wrong. But they say it with such confidence that you even question yourself. But it's a matter of, everybody's winging it. If you're only 80% confident, that's okay. When I became mayor, I had no idea. I was looking around for the handbook. I asked the town clerk. I asked the other staff members and a couple of previous mayors, how do I do it? Where's the handbook? If this occurs, what do I do? And they were like, well, there isn't one. You're the mayor now. I'm like, oh. Luckily, the mayor doesn't have that much power and doesn't have that kind of wielding sword of decisions that really, it's not that kind of mayorship in Truro, luckily. So, and anybody who knows me knows that I'm terrible at making decisions. I want everybody to be happy and content with every decision. And I don't know if you're ever like me, when you've got 3 people and it's like, what are we going to do for tea tonight? And I'm like, well, I'm not worried. You two decide. And then I'm trying to decide something that everybody is 100% happy with. And that's just not the case. So, just trying to, again, like I say, we're just wigging it. We're trying to do our best with decisions and everything like that. And I think if you're overly confident and you're absolutely bang on, you think your decision is the only decision and it is the answer, then you're probably not been 100% true to yourself or true to others and everything else like that. I think to have some wavering in your confidence levels is not a bad thing. I think it's okay to admit that you don't know what's going on sometimes. Either that or that's the way I feel, and it's okay. But there is a balance. There is a balance. You need to balance between the two. So you can't just say, hey, everybody's bringing it. I don't know what I'm doing. I haven't got a clue. And just be okay with that. That's not okay either. That there is that level of every time you step up your game, every time you take more responsibility, you have to step into it with some degree of knowing what you're doing, but you don't have to know everything of what you're doing. I think that's what I'm trying to say. And the other thing I've learned is to delete stuff, to stop doing stuff. I would say yes to everything, and I just cannot do everything. And there's people I want to catch up with. There's people that I want to have my cups of tea with. Friends around the country that I catch up with regularly and all that, and friends across the pond in America and all that. And I haven't caught up with them and I miss them. But it's because I'm saying yes to everything. So delete stuff, get rid of stuff. There's what is not important in your life. What are you doing? What Netflix shows are you watching to avoid doing the other stuff, simply because it's just easier to avoid everything? So just organise time and deleting stuff and just stop doing everything. Then just say no. What in your day is using up most of your time that you just really don't care about? And apart from the first one, I said this really makes a huge difference. This last one, and the older I get, the more important this one is. And that is treat the world the way you are, not the way they are. And if you take one thing from this podcast, take this one away. Treat them based on who you are, not who they are. If they're an asshole, don't become an asshole as well. Be a nice person. I said this to my daughter. We were on the way back from St Austell one day, and we were sat in the back of the van, and she was saying about a couple of her friends and some messages, and it was going a bit wrong and things like that. And she was saying, I just want to have a go at them. Stevie, they're wrong, and I'm done with them. And I said, well, is that who you are? Well, no, but they're doing my head in and all that. I said, yeah, but will you feel guilty if you treat them the way they're treating you? And they weren't treating her really badly. It wasn't no big bullying or anything like that. But it was a simple, quite a large misunderstanding. And this misunderstanding was growing out of proportion. And I said, well, who are you? Who are you in your heart? Treat them the way you are. And we had this discussion about it. And the more I think about it, the more I try to show up in the world as who I am. It's really important for me, for my foundations. And it means I can live with it. I can live with the decisions. I can live with how I treat people more than how they treat me. Then whether that always goes down well, I don't know. Whether that, sometimes it doesn't land well. Sometimes people mishear. Sometimes you're not responsible for what people hear. You're only responsible for what you say. Sometimes it goes totally wrong. But as long as you can stay true to yourself and do you know what? That was who I am. I'm showing up who I am. I say it from the heart of who I am. I think you can sleep at night. You can put your head down on the pillow and you can rest assured knowing that you did your best. And very often people below their anger, below their frustrations and all that, are deep caring people as well. I've never met an angry person that doesn't care deeply. And Jumpo, one of my teachers, one of the greatest teachers I would say ever, gave me more freedom from my thoughts, gave me more freedom from my procrastinations, my angst and everything than any other teacher I know. Sadly passed away last year. And I'm rereading his book, Heart of Zen, right now, and just going back to it. I just love it. It's one of those it's one of those books that should be so well known, and it just isn't. And I just wish it was. If you want to look it up, it's Junpo, Junpo. It's called Heart of Zen, and it's a dialogue between him and another guy talking about enlightenment, talking about today's modern world and how we get there and how we reduce our suffering and all that. And it's just a phenomenal book. So I had to buy one down off Amazon because I don't know who I gave mine to. So yeah, they're the three things. Just to recap, there's a huge difference between knowing and doing. You know you should be eating healthily, but unless you do it, what's the point of even knowing? Secondly, everybody's winging it, to some degree. Find that balance between winging it and having some confidence and not too much confidence, and be okay with not knowing the whole part of the next step. It's like your sat-nav. You're okay with the next 2 directions. You have confidence in the sat-nav for the rest of it. Have confidence in yourself that when you get there, you'll know what to do. You don't have to have everything. Delete stuff. Get rid of stuff in your life. What are you doing that's wasting time? What are you doing that's making you procrastinate? That's an overused word. It's an overused excuse to not do things. And I'm a procrastinator. No, you're not. You just know what you should be doing. You're not doing it. That's me. If you're watching me on YouTube, I'm popping my hand up now. It's like me. So the other thing is treat the world the way you are, not who they are. In every interaction, show up as you. And I think that's just so incredibly important. So, at the beginning of the podcast, I said to you that I was going to tell you how you can influence the shows. I've got a couple of shows planned out over the next couple of weeks. But apart from that, I want to know, what are you suffering with? What are you struggling with? Or what would you like me to cover? So you can go to stevenwebb.uk and contact me. Just click on the contact me. There's no hierarchy. There's no, if you buy me a coffee that you'll get on the show or anything like that, or there's none of that. It's just, if you buy me a coffee, if you treat me, effectively it helps me to pay for editing and things like that. And it helps for the hosting of the show, things like that, which costs money. But it's just also, it's like a warm hug inside. So I really appreciate that. But anybody, can email me with an idea for the show. Or even if you haven't got an idea for the show, email me with something you're struggling with. You can stay anonymous. I do have another podcast. It's called Inner Peace Meditations, which literally are meditations to give you some more inner peace. I will link that below this show. And there's a link to it again on stevenwebb.uk. My mayorship comes to an end in May. I've done my 2 years, and it's been the most amazing, privileged and wonderful 2 years. I'm really cracking on with my book now, The Gift of No Choice. That will be out this year. You'll find out more about that over the next coming weeks, because I'm going to really step up the accountability. I've been talking about this book. I've been writing chapters and I've been throwing stuff together for years. Anybody that knows me, I've been writing this book probably 10 years. And I just need to bloody do it. I can't wait to get this book out. It really is, I want to share my story. And I also want to share what I've learned and how I've overcome things and stuff like that. It's what people keep asking me for. So it's The Gift of No Choice, and it will be out this year, and I'm really stepping up. But you'll be able to pre-order it. You'll be able to support me. You'll be able to help me with the cost of editing and publishing and all that very soon. So, and finally, you can contact me. And if you leave a review for these podcasts, that makes a huge difference. But not only, don't just leave a review if you like the podcast. Leave a review if you got some criticism, if it's something I don't do very well. I'll tell you one thing I don't do very well. I'm not very, what's the word? I'm not very consistent. in actual fact, not very consistent. I am bloody terrible at uploading every week. So, nag me, email me. I shouldn't need it. But the newsletter as well. I send out my newsletter, not very consistently, but I'm not going to have anything deep and profound in my newsletter. I'm basically going to tell you what I'm up to, what I'm reading, what I'm watching, and what my shows and links to my shows, things like that. So if you want to be part of that, just little bits of more inner peace, things like that, and you want to know about the inner circle, things like that, and what's going on, sign up to the newsletter. You can do all of that from stephenwebb.uk. So, thank you for listening. Happy New Year. It's the start of 2023. I do release a show every week. Let's start as we mean to carry on. And you can keep up to date with everything, like I say, from that website, stephenwebb.uk. I love you guys. Thank you, and take care. Bye.